Hi, this is Robert Clinky-Beard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to scale your business and to become a better leader and push yourself out of your comfort zone. We encourage you to like and share with everyone to spread our messages. I'm super excited to announce our new partnership with Weathermatic. For most landscape companies, irrigation is an untapped gold mine for growth and profit, but labor and process problems stand in the way. So Weathermatic has created a partnership to package mobile technology and software with proven business solutions to tackle the perennial irrigation challenges and take your operations to a whole new level. I encourage you to reach out to Weathermatic and learn more. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. I'm excited to be joined again by a good friend of mine, Utkarsh Sharma. Utkarsh, welcome to the show again.
Thanks, man. It's always a fun time being here and talking to you.
Yeah, it's always good. I love all your passion. I love how you're always upbeat. So glad you're on the show again. For the people that don't know you, Karsh, maybe you can just explain your background and obviously the company you're leading now.
Sure. So I am a colorblind guy leading a company that creates maps, high resolution colored maps of the properties that you all service. We found out that there are a lot of motions happening in the industry, right? Everyone's going out there servicing a property, moving around a lot, but there isn't a good system of records that consolidates that information. And just this lack of access to data gets in the way of speed. Let's say during the sales process, when you have to put a bid together and you need the measurements, that's an example. Or you're going for renewals and you want a good sense of, okay, what does your portfolio look like in terms of, on which property you're spending more versus less. And so just access to good property information quickly really improves the speed of decision making and the efficiency with which a business is operating. On that premise, we started SiteRecon. It's been 3 years into this, worked with companies all the way from two companies in top three to a $500,000 landscaper working with a couple of crews. It's been a very rewarding journey in this space. Of course, technology is the key piece to it, but then on the other piece, there are people. And the people over here, I think it's been more rewarding to work with the people than technologies.
That's awesome. I mean, I know you attend a lot of the events over here. You've built some great relationships. I know you've got a ton of followers. And it's interesting you talk about, I see it. You're right. You see it all over the place. You see companies out there that are, still not looking at measurements. They're just, still looking at hours, trying to, point the finger and say, okay, it's roughly 10 hours. And then you get other, companies that are using the wheel. They're maybe sending out their business developer, not necessarily the best use of time, and they're using a wheel and spending half a day measuring a large HOA, but then to obviously then using some of that satellite imaging and data and being able to streamline that into your CRM or your ERP type system. So you've obviously seen it all over the place.
100%. And the interesting thing is people who are really good at this stuff, there are very few of them. So they would be good at measuring, they would be good at estimating. Sometimes they're good at sales as well. But this overlap is very rare. Let's say you find a great sales guy. You don't want to burden him with all the other things, right? And if a system or a process could take care of it, take that off their plate, then they're out there to be a sales guy. And that's the front end of your service, the front end of the service that gives a great experience. The back end can be handled by the technology. And so that's one piece. The other piece is we just talked about estimating. So, someone with an operational experience being great at using something like Excel, like Microsoft Excel, and be good with mathematics and formulas. It's hard to not a lot of people have that overlapping skill in the industry. And that's how you see very few estimators being out. And so when you work with like an estimating software, you're sort of expected to know this background of operational experience and running formulas and calculations. If you don't have that, then you default to, using the green thumb and working off by hours and equipment. And it's that gap. I think we are seeing our utility. How can we be useful to the industry? So take that expertise, build that into the system, and make that accessible out of the box.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what's interesting is especially me going into some companies and maybe they've made some acquisitions and there's been different ways of estimating. And there's still that sort of fight to try and do it their own way. And then you start getting inconsistencies between different estimators or different business developers. Either one's doing by hours or one's doing a certain method, and it's just all over the place. Whereas, one of the things that we talked offline about was, developing a consistent processes. I mean, processes are, I think, are huge, not only with the estimating piece, but also just, operationally. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about that importance, what you see out there in terms of developing processes.
Yeah. So imagine a smart account manager, right? Let's say you have 5 account managers in your team. The best one, he just gets it, right? But then how can you get the others to operate at the same level? And if you can take that process from the best account manager and make it accessible to the others in a way that is easy for them to integrate in their day to day, that's very powerful. Now your entire team sort of operates at 80% of the level of the best performer. How can you do that? Well, documentation, training, these are standard ways of doing it. Having some time set out, let's say in the winter seasons where you don't have that much coming in from the clients. So that's one. Technology helps big time. So if you had a tool that sort of keeps them on schedule with something as simple as touch points you need to establish with customers, right? If you have 40 customers in your portfolio, just go visit them once every month, or maybe once in 2 months, the smaller ones, the bigger ones you want to do at least once every month. Something as simple as that. And then when you do that touch point, what are the 5 things you talk about using a simple tool that helps you document that, keep track of that? That's it. At the end of the day, a lot of customers in the commercial landscaping world, all they expect is communication. If they don't get that, surveys have told us that's the number one reason why customers churn for commercial lands. Communication. So if you just have touch points established, decent communication happening, those 5 other guys in the team, they start operating at a very high level suddenly. It's very simple fix.
Yeah, yeah, it's not rocket science. Not rocket science.
That's that's the thing in the business. I think the rocket science piece in this business is how can you take chaos and make it more orderly? Like there's no way you will be able to get rid of all chaos. Like no business has ever been able to successfully get rid of all chaos. Like that's not even the expectation. But how can you like reduce some of it? And on the other side of it, see productivity.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Why do you think there's that resistance? You think it's just people are just used to doing things their own way? Maybe they're disorganized themselves to take a step back and think through what that might look like. Why do you think there's some resistance here?
I think part part of the resistance is just confusion. So there are some companies in the industry that have really figured out how to run a landscaping business efficiently, right? We had the good old Brickman Valley Crest models. A lot of other companies in the space have now come up to replicate that, some of the bigger ones, But then for the others, it's not so obvious. Like this is how we are supposed to operate our business. It doesn't come down to them like a playbook. When you don't have that playbook, often you might end up getting the order of things wrong in which you have to be rolling out initiatives, right? Priorities are not organized as efficiently, and everybody has intent. Like what we found is everybody has intent, but from our standpoint, we might think, getting your measurement sorted is more important because you start getting good data on just pricing and gross margins, which is like more fundamental than, let's say, implementing dash cams in the trucks that you're sending out. Now, someone might have been, sued by some random accident that happened, and suddenly that became like, this thing that they fear. So that priority is off. But there's a way in which you solve problems before they come up, which is going by the playbook, and that playbook is not really known in the industry as widely as we might think it is. And then the other is you solve problems as they come by. And the second method continues to deal with chaos reactively, and the first one is actually not as known. So I mean, personally, I feel it's because of that lack of access to that playbook, which is where, of course, folks like you come in, Robert.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, you hear stories about, companies like McDonald's, or maybe that's not a good example, but like Chick-fil-A, it's when you go to that Chick-fil-A, it was just a consistent service. People are happy, polite, respectful, and they have an amazing playbook that they go to, and it's just taking that time to be able to do that. And it might take 6 months, 12 months to develop that playbook. But I think once you have that playbook, it just makes things so much easier, that potentially more profitable. You're able to scale the company. You're able to set up different branches if you have that playbook. And yeah, a lot of companies I come across don't necessarily have that. They've been tempted to do that. They talk about it in the strategic planning, but just never seem to quite get there because emergencies or fires come up constantly.
Yep. I think a lot of companies also suffer from legacy problems. So, when they started business, they were, trying to put food on the table, so on, right? So they went and got a specific customer mix into their portfolio. Now they have to deal with that as an ongoing thing, as an ongoing threat that then reduces the free overhead they have available to invest in future initiatives. I think that sort of gets, over time built into the system as a habit. And, like it's sort of easy to point fingers and say that this is an industry that does not adopt technology, and there's just some resistance to it. But I think a lot of it is just, I mean, like we used to call it in the Indian culture, karma. And for karma, sometimes you can't really blame people for karma. It's just like you are handed, there was no choice there.
Yeah. No, I mean, you make a good point. I mean, yeah, you have the legacy piece, and I think maybe people that have been a part of companies or founded companies, 20, 30 years ago, all this data now being thrown at them, is pretty overwhelming. And if you don't necessarily have a grasp on that, and yes, you're supposed to, I suppose, show that, being leader of the company, you know things, you know how to handle things, but behind the scenes, you're sort of still trying to grasp it. How do you make some of those founders, those owners, more comfortable? What does that look like? I mean, I hear more and more
It's
people talking about bringing in CTOs, chief technical officers, or AI experts, or people like that. But what do you see out there?
Yeah, that's true. And then, peer groups, you guys run peer groups. That's a big piece to it too. There is, I think at the end of the day, a need to have just intent. I think once there's intent, stuff just finds itself. You will find stuff coming to you. So let's say you and I talk about buying white rabbits today on Zoom. I will start getting YouTube shorts on white rabbits very quickly. This is because we spoke about it, right? Recommendation engines work. And then some, so I think we talk about generative AI, for instance, or we talk about chat GPT, how can that be used on a day-to-day basis? Uh, Once you do that, stuff starts popping up, setting some time aside to learn. I think that helps. And honestly, I don't really have a great fix for it. I think it's kind of specific to companies. We've been, I think, sort of lucky to run into a lot of smarter companies these past few years. And well, honestly, that actually forms the larger base of our business. The companies that were not so smart, we found a real challenge to address this over there. One thing we found recently that is working really nicely, I'm glad I remember that. We started doing masterclass kind of webinars every 2 weeks. What we do there is we bring in an expert. The first two experts we started with were best salespeople we know, at least in our network, selling $2-3 million every year very consistently. So get them on the call, get them to talk about how they do the things. Then get some of the consultants, folks over at Advisor, folks over at Harvest Group. So get them in, get them to talk about this stuff. There's a new concept that I realized recently. If there's a CEO solving a certain problem, and let's say he live streams it, and I've seen this in a different industry completely. But if he live streams it and says, here's the solution that I'll build in 2 weeks. Hey, I'll build a great client retention process in the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to live stream what I 1 hour every day for 2 weeks. You'll be surprised how many people actually start following that. It's not the same as recording a video and posting it because this guy is actually solving it live. And I think we just need more of those initiatives happen, and then the hope is one thing.
No, I think you're right, and I think is it just because
That
people are being raw, they're sharing their information, sharing their knowledge. I mean, I think people tend to learn more from hearing stories, hearing success stories. rather than just sit in front of a boring presentation that's been scripted. But just, having that live experience sharing, I think people can relate to that more.
Yeah. We had Ken Thomas. He was on our webinar last week, and he was showing this old Valley Crest proposal that he used to create back in the day. And the date on that thing was like 2009 or 2010. It was like super old. The good thing about that proposal was it was like nothing people had seen ever. uh, and people who are doing sales right now. Why? If you go up and look at the kind of proposals that are being submitted to a CDD in Florida, the CDDs just put everything online. You can see what all the big companies are doing in the market proposal. They're all a big about me brochures. That's all they are. 60 pages about me. And Kent's proposal had nothing about me. It was 6 pages. It had everything about the property.
Mm.
And that was it. It was like, here's a proposal, and here's a contract, and here's an SOW. Three separate things.
No, I like that. Yeah, because people obviously want to hear about their issues. They want to hear about themselves. How can we fix our issue? Most of the landscape companies, there's very few differentiators between them. They all cut grass, they all trim shrubs, they all do arbor, they all do irrigation. But what can we do to make a difference in your property? And spending that time identifying the challenges and listening to your clients or your prospects.
And then that is all you need to put in your proposal, according to Ken. That's it. That's it. Because no one else was actually doing that, at least not doing that right now.
Right. No, I like that. So wrap things up here. Utkarsh, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing with your company. I know you're constantly evolving, looking for new ideas to bring to the industry, bring to clients, even potentially other industries as well. I'd love to just hear where your company is going.
So we see a huge gap on property mapping, just building a solution that is really good at mapping properties in the office and in the field. Right now, our platform supports that, but we are not so tied to the workflows that are following up from just collecting property data, like estimating, like, putting proposals together, doing good enhancement sales, and so on. So that little piece just right above property mapping that helps business developers, account managers, production managers really shine. I think production managers also suffer because they are sort of asked to go and service the property at a cost they probably didn't really sign off on in a lot of companies. And so all of these gaps that exist just above the mapping layer, we are going after that piece. Hopefully, it's received well by folks that we go and talk to. Fingers crossed on that.
Cool. Awesome. Good luck. Well, how do people get in touch with you just to find out about, your services, what you can offer them, how they can become a bit more efficient at capturing that data?
So one thing you all can do is go to SiteRecon YouTube channel. We are posting content there very regularly. We update that page every 1-2 weeks with fresh videos, webinars that we're doing. Look for SiteRecon YouTube channel. You'll find our content. You'll find the links to with us, with our consulting partners, and let's figure something out. We are here to help. Not everything boils down to a dollar in the books. Sometimes a conversation is more rewarding than anything else that happens downstream. So really excited to talk to anybody.
Awesome. Utkarsh, always a pleasure talking to you, seeing you. Look forward to seeing you some of the events. Good luck with your business and scaling it to another level. So thanks for your time today, Utkarsh.
Thank you so much, Robert. I really like what you guys are doing with Wilson 360, man. Keep up that stuff. This is like really innovative, and you're showing us the way, showing a lot of us how to go about doing things. More power to you all.
Cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Take
Thank
care.
you, Robert.
Right. Cheers.
Too. Bye.
Bye. Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clickybeard. We'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe to our various podcast channels or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or wilson360.com. Love you to join you there. We have our new 360 Plus community program we'd love you to sign up for. It's on the far right-hand side of our website. Thanks again for our partner, Weathermatic, and I encourage you to reach out to them. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.